So the last two we'll talk about are Inessa Armand and Elena Lagodianova. So Armand, she was described as the hot Bolshevik.
Okay.
Of the five, she's the one that dies fairly young. She dies in her 40s, I think.
Okay.
But she was very connected to Lenin and Krupskaya. And she was born in 1874, so around the same time as Krupskaya and Lenin. She's also French. So like she's like a French Soviet. It's so she's kind of a little. That's why her name is the more like Western Europe rather than Eastern Europe.
Right.
She had she had five children. She was connected to. She was somebody who was hypergamous in that she did marry a wealthy guy.
Okay.
But didn't really stay with him particularly long, and eventually leaves him and falls in love with somebody else. But she's really connected to her son Alexander. And but Armand and Krupskaya and Lenin were very tight as a group. And kind of all influenced each other. And, she was instrumental before the revolution for setting up the Moscow Society for the Improvement of a Lot of Women. She wrote less than some of these other figures. Part of that was because Lenin, and this is, I think, a criticism of him, and a criticism of him in relation both to Armand and to Krupskaya, but like he would often say, like, I need your help with this right now. I can't have you doing this other work.
Oh.
So there's a lot of that where it's like, I need you now to do this for the revolution. I can't have you writing your own shit. So there's a little bit of a sexism there in the sense of like,
that's not as cool, but
that's not as cool, but it's honest. I mean, that's really the way it was. Armand was strikingly beautiful. I mean, she was a very beautiful woman. She had this sort of beautiful, sort of almost aquiline nose and kind of very beautiful hair. And she was always very elegant. She was a very elegant person. And that's one of the things that kind of connects like the three of the women in the book, Kollontai and Armand are probably the most that are kind of similar in the sense that they come from that sort of upper class background. But they were people who were sort of class traders. They were like, I come from that, so I know it better than anybody, and I can tell you it sucks. And so, she's really a key figure of that early years where Krupskaya was connected to Lenin and helped him as a secretary and as an advisor. And as, like I said, as some people speculate, his lover, but there's no really good evidence for that. And she kind of falls out of the picture around the time of the revolution.
Okay.
And sort of kind of goes her own way. And then, sadly, she died in 1920. She died of cholera.
Oh, okay.
So she died at the height of the Russian Civil War. And so, she kind of felt like she was sort of stifled by some of the limitations of the Soviet society and the Bolshevik Revolution and Lenin. And it's more tragic. Her story is probably the more tragic and the more ambiguous of the five. Yeah. There's not as much of a clear influence beyond just like she was very influential in the early years with Lenin and Krupskaya. But she was important enough in that she was an important sounding board for both Lenin and Krupskaya and for them to articulate their own ideas. And same with her.